Hey, what's up, Facebook? What's up, brothers? Welcome to My Life Monday with Mike, your mentor. Appreciate you checking this out. If you're watching the replay, thank you very much for coming through. So, if you're new to this page, the idea behind Mike, your mentor was just me taking all of the wisdom and all of the things that I've kind of learned along my 38 years of life and sharing that with other people, but men specifically, in order to challenge them to answer the higher calling that we have on our lives as men, as husbands, as fathers, as leaders in our community. And it's not that I profess to be smarter than anyone else. It's just that I've been through a lot of crazy stuff in my life, more than most people go through in their entire life. And I've learned a lot of lessons through those things. And the saying that you don't know what you don't know is extremely true. So if I can help shed some light and point out some potential pitfalls or obstacles that might help keep another brother from getting jammed up and experiencing some of the pain that I experienced along the way, then it's all worth it. So that's in an essence what this page is about. And specifically, My Life Monday is just where I come live and I talk about maybe some things that have made a difference or spoke to me in the last week, maybe some lessons that I've learned, and I just share them. So it's not very intense. It's not very long. So yeah, this past week was kind of interesting. There was a reoccurring theme that kept popping up, and I know that God's trying to tell me something, and it's whether or not I'm going to pay attention or not. But I wanted to start it off by sharing something with you guys out of a book that I'm working through that one of my mentors recommended to me, and it's called Straight Line Leadership: Tools for Living with Velocity and Power in Turbulent Times. And this is kind of the reoccurring message that I just seems to just keep coming across in my life this past week. And there's this quote, and it says, "Power doesn't come from knowledge. What people know doesn't make them powerful. It's being present to what you're dealing with that gives you power." And then he goes on to talk about that, right? Like how people are always trying to figure out, or they have this internal conversation with themselves that says, if I only know just a little bit more, then I'll be able to make my life better. If I only knew this, or if I just figured this out. And in reality, that's not it at all. The author tends to argue that you already, for the most part, you already have all the knowledge that you need about something. Those that really take ownership of their lives and those that really do something worthy or do something that others considered great, the only difference between them and those that don't is not the knowledge that those people have. It's that they act out, or they act on the knowledge that they have, right? They live it out every day in their life. And I can kind of relate to the opposite of that, right? Which is this mindset that you just need to learn and get more knowledge and more knowledge and not more knowledge, and then finally you'll have all the knowledge you need, and that it'll all come together, and then you'll be able to just act upon that. Well, that's just BS, right? Because as the author talks about, and as I'm figuring out more and more as this message just replays in my mind throughout these interactions of reading this book, and then just things that have happened in my life during this week, it's not true that you necessarily need more information. You need to do something with the information that you have. And it's interesting, right? Because a lot of the things that I talk about on this channel, they're not necessarily new concepts by any means. And I'd argue that a lot of it is stuff that most guys know, but for whatever reason, we haven't figured out why we can't live those things out in our life. And I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with a good buddy of mine about a situation that played itself out, and he allowed me to just kind of give him a little bit of advice around that situation, but also ask him some questions and some reflection about it. And there's things in life when we deal with people that to us it seems so simple. When we think of that person, if we're in a situation or a relationship with a person about, why can't they just do this? It'd be so easy. It'd make my life so much easier. It'd make their life so much easier. It'd make our lives so much easier. And while it seems simple to us, and it may seem simple to them, they're not able to act on that. And it could be for a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's due to the home we were raised in and what influences we had around us. If we grew up in a home that was messy and no one ever put anything away, even though we know we should put our stuff away and keep things tidy, we may find it extremely difficult to do that because that was the environment that we grew up in. And those types of things, right? That environment, that would that be nurture or nature? Yeah, I think that would be nurture. Is hard to escape, and unless we're super intentional about breaking that pattern and doing something different, then we're gonna end up living what we know, which is that. And I think about my own life, right? My dad was in and out of prison, and then when he wasn't in prison, he was just a complete womanizer, and he took advantage of my mom, and he used the love that she had for him and her desire to have a family and to be a whole cohesive family unit, and he used that to his advantage. And I don't know much about his past, but I'm assuming that's because that's all he knew. And whether he learned that from someone in his family or at a young age he realized that he needed to be able to do that in order to survive, so it became a survival mechanism, he was never able to get away from that. And even though he wasn't in my life that much, his womanizing still had an effect on me, not to the same effect to where I wanted to use women, but to the fact that I wasn't honoring women the way that they were intended to be honored a lot of the times. And it wasn't until I made a conscious and intentional decision that I didn't want to be anything like my dad, even those parts, that I couldn't start to break away from that and to change my life in that area. So another place that this showed up in my life is I had a surprise visit from somebody this week, and I don't think they would mind me sharing it here, but this is a picture of me and my good buddy Joe. And Joe was actually one of the first kids that I ever mentored in my entire life. I worked at this boys' home, and then Joe was a boy there for a little while. And I'm extremely proud of Joe because, man, he went through some crap. I tell you what, some of the stuff that he went through was not easy. And Joe could have very easily continued to be bitter. He very easily could have continued to give up on himself, give up on life. He had every excuse in the world to make wrong decisions and justify those by what he had been through. But instead of that, Joe chose to rise above that, and he realized that he was in control of his life, and the kind of life that he was going to live would be almost totally determined by the decisions that he chose to make and how he reacted to things. And don't get me wrong, this wasn't an overnight thing. This was a process, but Today, Joe has served in the military. You know, he holds down a good job. You know, he has his own place. He's doing all the things that a responsible and what's the word I'm looking for? And somebody who makes a positive contribution to society does. And he doesn't make excuses for himself like he kind of did when I first met him when he was a young boy. So I bring that up to say, like, you know, Joe knew, and I know he would agree with this. He knew a lot of what he needed to do, even at that young age, and as he matured as a young man. But he had to come to a point where he was going to decide: is it good enough just knowing these things, or am I actually going to do something with this knowledge that people have shared with me, with this wisdom that people have been tried to impart on me, and make something out of my life? And he did. And I couldn't be more proud of him for doing that. And he got rid of that little bird chest he used to have. Started doing some push-ups, lifting some weights. So I'm proud of you, Joe. So keep that up. So in closing, I just want to challenge you, right? Like, what is it in your life right now that you know you need to do that would make a difference in your life? You don't need more information. You don't need to read another book. You don't need to talk to somebody else. What can you do starting today to implement what you already know and start to turn the corner in your life in that area and make a decision? You want to come say hi? I mean, instead of being in the background, just say hi a minute, because I'm almost done. No, not right now.
Hi.
Okay, thank you. So, as I was saying, you know, what can you do? What do you know that you haven't acted on? And I can guarantee you that's the difference between going to the next level in your life in whatever area it is making that conscious decision to start to act on what you already know. And as you start to move forward, you may not have all the answers. I totally understand that. But as you start to move forward and act and do action and start to get that momentum going, everything else will work itself out. You'll figure out the rest that you need. But as long as you continue to stay paralyzed and don't act on what you already know, you're wasting that knowledge, you're wasting that wisdom. So thank you for tuning in to My Life Monday. If you need anything, I'm here. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys tomorrow for the Tuesday Thought. Have a good night.